In 2024, three black SUVs rolled into a small Georgia town, the kind nobody in Hadley Springs had ever seen, the kind that cost more than most of the houses there. 800 people gathered in the town square. Camera crews pointed their lenses at a makeshift stage. On that stage stood a 65-year-old black woman, tears streaming down her face. 20 years earlier, she'd taken in three white boys nobody wanted, brothers the whole town had rejected. She'd raised them with nothing but love and prayers whispered in the dark. Then they were ripped away from her. She never saw them again, until today. What she didn't know was that those three boys had become some of the most powerful men in the Southeast. And what happened next brought the entire town to its knees. But before we get to that moment, we need to go back to 2004, to a woman who had no idea her life was about to change forever. Hadley Springs, Georgia. Population 2,800. One gas station, one church, one grocery store that closed at 6. The kind of town where everybody knew everybody, and everybody had an opinion about everybody else. Beatrice Owens lived in a 3-bedroom house her grandmother had built in 1955, wooden floors that creaked, a wraparound porch with a rocking chair, a vegetable garden out back. She was 45, never married, no children, not for lack of wanting. After 2 miscarriages in her 30s, she'd stopped hoping and poured all that love into Sunday school kids, stray cats, and tomato plants. She worked 2 jobs, mornings in the elementary school cafeteria, weekends cleaning the county courthouse, and took home about $1,280 a month. The mortgage was $620. Her roof had been leaking since February, a blue tarp and 3 buckets catching the drips. Repair estimate, $3,400. Her savings, $780. She never complained. That wasn't her way. Every Sunday, she sat in the 3rd pew at Greater Hope Baptist Church. Pastor Coleman noticed something the rest of the town didn't see. Beatrice had a gift for broken things. Her neighbor Denise saw the loneliness behind her tired smile, a permanent guest that never quite left. Every night for 15 years, Beatrice prayed the same prayer. Lord, if I'm meant to be a mother, send me someone to love. Above her fireplace hung a small wooden plaque her grandmother had carved. A house becomes a home when it holds someone else's pain. She was about to learn what those words really meant. Hadley Springs wasn't openly hostile, but there was a texture to the silence. Conversations that paused a beat too long when she walked into the store, a substitute teaching application that no one ever called back about. She told herself it didn't bother her, but some nights she wondered what it would feel like to be someone's first choice instead of their last resort. Then, one Tuesday night, the phone rang. Carolyn Mitchell, a social worker from the county office, an old high school friend. B, I've got 3 brothers, and nobody will take them. I mean nobody. 4 foster homes in 18 months, and at the last one there was an incident. What Carolyn couldn't say was why these boys seemed erased from every record that mattered, why no relatives had come forward, why a family with their last name had once been mentioned in the Atlanta papers in connection with serious money. Neither Carolyn nor Beatrice knew that part yet. James is 14, Daniel is 11, Thomas is 8, Carolyn said. Thomas hasn't spoken in 6 weeks. Daniel's been suspended 3 times for fighting, always protecting his brothers. And James talks like he doesn't expect to see 18. Their parents died 8 months ago in a car accident, and no family has claimed them. If I can't find placement by Friday, they get split up. 3 different homes, 3 different counties. Beatrice looked around her small house, thought of her $780 in savings, then thought of an 8-year-old who decided the world wasn't worth talking to anymore. Carolyn, bring them here. Friday came gray and cold. A county van pulled up, not a sedan, a van, because they needed room for 3 boys and everything they owned, which fit in 3 garbage bags. James came first, 14, carrying himself like a grown man, jaw set, hands clenched. He'd been the parent for 4 years now. Behind him, Daniel, 11, a fading bruise under one eye, scanning the property like he was calculating escape routes. And hiding behind both of them, Thomas, 8, clutching a battered leather notebook against his chest like a shield, gold initials almost worn away in the corner. H.W. Beatrice didn't think anything of it. She should have. She did something none of the other foster parents had done. Stepped off the porch and knelt right there on the path, eye level with Thomas. "I'm Miss B. This is my house. And as long as you're here, it's your house too. I've got 3 rules. We eat together, we don't lie to each other, and nobody in this house goes to bed without knowing they're loved." Daniel snorted. "That's 4 rules. The 4th one's not a rule. It's a promise." Something flickered in James's eyes. Across the street, Garden Club President Edna Cartwright watched through her window, lips pressed thin. Down the road, Sheriff Dawson slowed his patrol car but didn't stop. Beatrice felt the stares. She'd felt them her whole life. Today, for the first time, she didn't care. That first night, James and Daniel ate like the food might disappear. Thomas just pushed his around the plate until Beatrice told him gently he didn't have to talk, but he did have to eat, at least a little. He looked up, first eye contact with an adult in weeks, and took a bite. What none of them knew was that someone very powerful was already looking for these boys, and when he found them, everything would fall apart. The first 6 months were the hardest. James tested her constantly, came home late without explanation, waited for her to give up. She didn't. One night, she was waiting on the porch with a warm plate when he stumbled in at 11. "You're going to eat, because that's one of my promises." No lecture came. Just chicken and a woman who refused to quit. By the next Tuesday, he was home by 9. Daniel's pain came out through his fists, always defending his brothers. Beatrice sat through every school meeting, held his hand under the table, and eventually signed him up for the youth boxing program. "You want to throw punches? Fine. Gloves, rules, respect." Daniel found control in that ring, came home tired instead of angry. Thomas didn't speak for 8 weeks. Beatrice read to him every night until, in week 9, he whispered, "Miss B, will you still be here in the morning?" "Every morning, for as long as you need me." That night he slept without nightmares for the first time. In January, the worst ice storm in 20 years hit the county. At 2 a.m., the power went out, the roof leaked, ice crept across the windows, and Thomas started coughing, then shaking, his lips turning blue. No car, no phone, the nearest neighbor a quarter-mile away through ice. "James, Daniel, keep your brother warm," Beatrice said, and walked out into the storm, fell twice, her hands going numb, but she reached Denise Harper's door and pounded until her gloves bled. They made it to the hospital just in time. Early hypothermia, a respiratory infection. Another hour in that cold, and it could have been much worse. Around 4 a.m., James asked, "Why are you doing this? We're not even yours." Beatrice put her arm around him. "Family isn't about blood. Family is who shows up when the ice comes. I'm showing up." After that, he stopped calling her Miss B and started calling her Mama B. 18 months passed. Homework at the kitchen table, Sunday dinners, bedtime stories, boxing practice, ripening tomatoes. James started talking about college, maybe social work. Daniel won the county youth boxing championship. Thomas was reading 2 grades above level, still quiet, but the good kind of quiet now. Beatrice filed the adoption paperwork. Not everyone in town saw it the way the boys did. Edna Cartwright stopped her outside the grocery store. "Those boys needed a home, and I had one," Beatrice answered calmly and walked away, hands shaking where no one could see. Nobody noticed the black car that had been parked at the end of the road for days, watching until Friday when a black limousine pulled into the driveway. A man in his 70s stepped out, silver hair, a face hard as someone who'd never once heard the word no. "Miss Owens, my name is Harold Whitfield. I'm here for my grandchildren." The ground seemed to shift beneath her. James stood in the doorway, pale. "You're the one she wrote letters to, the one who never answered." The next 3 weeks were a nightmare. Harold wasn't just rich, he was powerful, and his lawyers arrived with birth certificates, blood tests, custody petitions. He was the boy's only living blood relative. Beatrice was just a foster mother, temporary, disposable. She hired a cheap, fresh-out-of-law school attorney against a team from Atlanta, brought witnesses, Pastor Coleman, Denise, the ER doctor, teachers. None of it mattered. Harold's argument was blood, and in Georgia, blood still meant everything. The judge ruled in his favor. Custody transferred immediately. On the same porch where she'd once knelt, Beatrice now watched her home come apart. "Mama B, we don't want to go," said James, 16 now, his eyes 10 years old again. "I know, baby. The law doesn't see what we are." Daniel hugged her, sobbing. "Don't let the anger win," she whispered. "Control it." Thomas held up his leather notebook. "Keep it for me, Mama B. I'll come back for it. I promise." James turned back one last time. "We'll come back. I swear it." The limousine drove off. Beatrice stood on that porch until the sun went down, alone, the notebook with the initials HW pressed to her chest. She wouldn't see those boys again for 20 years. That first year, she wrote a letter every week to Harold's Atlanta address. Everyone came back, returned to sender. The phone number was disconnected. A private investigator, paid for with money she didn't have, found an elite boarding school in New England with no visitors allowed. She drove 8 hours, stood at the gates, and was turned away politely but firmly. After that, the trail went completely cold. Harold had erased her from his grandchildren's lives as thoroughly as if she'd never existed. The town turned on her. Rumors spread. The grandfather must have found out she was mistreating them. She probably just wanted the foster checks. In 2010, she lost her cafeteria job. Budget cuts, they said, though Edna sat on the school board. She cleaned houses and offices instead. In 2015 came the diagnosis: breast cancer, early stage, treatable, but with no insurance and no savings. She sold her car, took out a second mortgage, sold her grandmother's jewelry. 6 months of chemotherapy, only Denise at her side. She survived. The cancer didn't, but $28,000 in debt remained. In 2020, the pandemic took her last cleaning jobs. 61 years old, no income. She babysat for $5 an hour, sold cornbread for $3 a loaf, and prayed every night, not for herself, but for the boys. In 2020, Harold Whitfield died. Beatrice read about it in a small obituary. Billionaire philanthropist, survived by 3 grandchildren. She searched again. Nothing. What she didn't know was that, across the country, 3 young men were searching for her too. After Harold's death, James, Daniel, and Thomas each inherited $600 million. James hired the best investigator money could buy. Find Beatrice Owens, whatever it takes. But she had no digital footprint, no cell phone, no email. Just the same house, the same landline, while letters got lost or came back over address format errors. 4 years of dead ends until early 2024, when the investigator finally confirmed it. She was still in Hadley Springs, barely. In 2023, the bank had sent a notice: 30 days, or the house would be foreclosed. That night, Beatrice sat in her kitchen holding the still unopened leather notebook, $147 left in her account. "Lord, if I can't see them again, at least let them know. I kept my promise. I loved them every single day." She didn't know that 3 men were already driving 600 miles through the night, racing against time. They'd found her, and they weren't going to lose her again. Saturday morning, spring 2024, 7 days until the bank took her house. Beatrice was working in the garden one last time when she heard engines, deeper, smoother than any pickup truck. 3 black SUVs pulled up in front of her house. A tall man in a gray suit stepped out. Then a muscular one with a scar on his forearm. Then a slender man with glasses and the same blue-green eyes she remembered from a silent 8-year-old. The watering can slipped from her hand. Thomas. "Hey, Mama B, I came back for my notebook." James stepped forward. "We promised we'd come back. We keep our promises." Daniel was already crying, unashamed. Mama B. That was all it took. 65 years old, bad knees, Beatrice ran for the first time in years. James caught her first, then Daniel, then Thomas. 4 people standing in a vegetable garden, holding on, crying. 20 years of separation, finally over. Inside, the men looked around, the same creaky floors, the same rocking chair, the same wooden plaque over the fireplace, and on the refrigerator, faded but still there, Thomas's drawing, 4 stick figures, my family. "You kept it," Daniel whispered. "I kept everything," Beatrice said, handing Thomas the leather notebook. "I never opened it. It's yours. Inside were his childhood stories, and on the last page, something new. A letter in his mother's handwriting, written before she died, that he'd never known was there. She left it there for you, Beatrice said softly. I figured you'd find it when you were ready. Thomas broke down completely. James took her hands. Mama B, we know about the bank. We paid off the mortgage. The house is yours, free and clear. Her legs went weak. And we're starting the Beatrice Owens Foundation, Thomas said. $50 million for foster families across Georgia. Emergency housing, legal aid, scholarships. We want you to run it. Why? She whispered. Daniel knelt beside her chair. You walked through an ice storm for us. You fought a billionaire in court for us. You waited 20 years. Nothing we do will ever be enough, but we're going to spend the rest of our lives trying. Beatrice laughed and cried at once. I prayed for this every single night, and here you are. Here we are, Mama, and we're not going anywhere. But they hadn't just come to find their mother. They'd come to face the town that had abandoned her. By afternoon, nearly 800 people had gathered in the town square. James stepped up to the microphone. 20 years ago, we stood on this street, our parents just dead, no home. We were rejected by 4 foster families. And when the social worker asked this town if anyone would take 3 orphaned brothers, nobody answered, not one person. He pointed toward Beatrice, standing at the side of the stage. A black woman, living alone, working 2 jobs, barely enough to feed herself. She didn't have much, but she opened her home to us. She walked through an ice storm to save my brother. She fought a billionaire in court. She is our mother. Applause, sobbing. But James wasn't finished. This town turned on her. Rumors, lies. She lost her job, got cancer, and fought it alone, nearly lost her house. Where were all of you? Nobody answered. Daniel stepped up. We paid off her mortgage. Her house is hers forever, and we're establishing the Beatrice Owens Foundation. $50 million for a family resource center right here in Hadley Springs, scholarships for every foster child in this county, 50 homes repaired, including the homes of families who said terrible things about our mother. Gasps moved through the crowd. Thomas, the one who'd once stopped speaking entirely, stepped up last. Mama B taught us that kindness doesn't keep score, it just keeps giving. So that's what we're doing, giving to everyone, even the people who don't deserve it. Edna Cartwright, now 88, pushed through the crowd, climbed the stage steps, and sank to her knees in front of Beatrice. I was wrong, about all of it. Can you ever forgive me? Beatrice lifted her up. I forgave you a long time ago. Holding on to anger only hurts the one holding it. She pulled her into a hug, and the crowd broke. Applause, tears, strangers embracing strangers. 20 years of whispers and silence washed away that day. A year later, Hadley Springs was barely recognizable. The Owens Family Resource Center stood in the heart of town, a bronze statue out front engraved with the words, "A house becomes a home when it holds someone else's pain." 28 families had registered as foster parents, where before there had been 0. 45 students received full scholarships. 32 homes were repaired or rebuilt. National papers called Hadley Springs the town of second chances. James moved into the house next door, so Mama never has to be alone again, and ran the foundation full-time. Daniel built the Owens Athletic Center, free boxing lessons for kids with too much anger and nowhere to put it. Thomas opened a legal clinic and pushed a bill through the state legislature to keep foster siblings together. Every Sunday, they all gathered at Beatrice's house, partners now, and Thomas's 2-year-old daughter, named after her grandmother, Bea. The table was full, loud, full of laughter. One Tuesday, Carolyn Mitchell, long retired, called once more. Bea, there's a little girl, 7 years old. Nobody will take her. Beatrice looked out the window at her full, noisy family. Bring her over, Carolyn. An hour later, a little girl stepped out of a car, scared eyes clutching a torn backpack. Beatrice knelt in the grass, eye level. Hey, sweetheart, I'm Miss B. This is your home now. The little girl took her hand. Some things never change, some things shouldn't. That's the story of Beatrice Owens, a woman who said yes when everyone else said no, who walked through ice storms, fought a billionaire in court, and waited 20 years. A woman who proved that one act of kindness can change everything.